It's the day in which I unveil the very first member of the Mother of All Talk Shows Hall of Fame. And my nomination goes to one of the greatest men and one of the greatest Americans who ever lived. I refer to Paul Leroy Robeson, who was not just a wonderful singer, not just a wonderful actor, but as a human being was an absolute giant of a man, both figuratively and metaphorically. Paul Robeson was the ultimate victim of the blacklist. Paul Robeson actually got his passport taken away. Paul Robeson had to sing to the people down a telephone line in St. Pancras Hall in London, a packed hall, by the way, who knew he couldn't come because they'd taken his passport. But they turned out, bought tickets, and stood in an ovation in St. Pancras Town Hall to a rendition of Old Man River by Paul Robeson down a telephone line tied to a microphone like this. Paul Robeson's voice, his presence, his courage in facing up to racism, facing up to all the prejudices and bigotries of American life in his era, standing up to the Cold War division of the world, standing in solidarity with the people of Russia, with the people of China, perhaps above all with the people of Spain, as an activist here in London, when a student at SOAS, the School of Oriental and African Studies, with the people of Republican Spain. He was born Paul Leroy Robeson in April 1898 in Princeton, New Jersey. His father, William, a preacher, was actually born a slave. Robeson was a bass baritone singer and stage and film actor who became famous both for his cultural accomplishments and for his political activism. He was educated at Rutgers College, where I've spoken actually. He was only the third black student to go there. And Columbia University. He was also a star athlete in his youth. He studied Swahili and linguistics at SOAS in London in 1934. His political activities began with his involvement with unemployed workers, with the miners here in Britain, and with anti-imperialist students that he met here in Britain and worked with in support of the Republican cause in the Spanish Civil War and his lifelong opposition to fascism. In the United States, he also became active in the civil rights movement and other social justice campaigns. His sympathies for the Soviet Union and communism and his criticism of the United States government and its foreign policies caused him to be blacklisted during the McCarthy era. Paul Robeson worked briefly as a lawyer, but he renounced a career in law due to the widespread racism he found there and decided to concentrate on his musical career, appearing on Broadway, on the London stage, performing Shakespeare, and in a series of films. Paul Robeson believed that trade unionism was crucial to civil rights, and it became a mainstay of his political beliefs, and he became a proponent of the union activist. In 1956, Paul Robeson was called before McCarthy's House Un-American Activities Committee after he refused to sign an affidavit affirming that he was not a communist. In his testimony, he invoked the Fifth Amendment and refused to reveal his political affiliations. When asked why he had not remained in the Soviet Union because of his affinity with its political ideology, Robeson replied, because my father was a slave and my people died to build the United States. And I'm going to stay here and have a part of it, just like you. And no fascist-minded people will drive me from it. At that hearing, Robeson stated, and I quote, "Whether I am or not a communist is irrelevant. The question is whether American citizens, regardless of their political beliefs or sympathies, may enjoy their constitutional rights." In 1957, still unable, because they'd taken his passport, to accept invitations to perform abroad, Robeson sang for audiences around the world, including in London, where 1,000 concert tickets sold out for his telephone concert at St. Pancras Town Hall. "We have to learn the hard way that there is another way to sing," he said. An appeal to the US Supreme Court to reinstate his confiscated passport was rejected, but over the telephone, Robeson was able to sing to audiences, including in London. On January 23rd, 1976, following complications from a stroke, Robeson died in Philadelphia at the age of 77. He lay in state in Harlem, and his funeral was held at his brother Ben's former parsonage. At the 2007 Edinburgh Fringe Festival, British-Nigerian actor Tayo Aluko, himself a baritone soloist, premiered his one-man show, Call Mr. Robeson, A Life with Songs, which has since toured various countries. And the film director, Steve McQueen, has also said he intends to film Paul Robeson's story. I hope he does. I know he would do it justice. The one-man stage show is a must. The books on Paul Robeson will repay many times the time you spend reading it. But when this show is over, go on to YouTube and listen to the great Paul Robeson sing and speak. His voice, his words ring out across the ages, across the continents. He was one of the greatest of all human beings and one of the greatest Americans. And I'm proud to say he is now #1 in our Hall of Fame.